community will have to, by a militia, protect itself, because you couldn't even have a market in Somalia after shit hit the fan without them coming through and just killing everybody and taking things. You know, it's a sport for psychopaths. So just realize that's going to happen. So however you feel that.
How did countryside folk fare, like the farms or further out of the city, outside the suburbs, out into what we consider like farming country, for example? Like what happened out that way?
Where most of them would get caught is going to and from.
Hey, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me right here today. Craig Simpson from Radiant Creators. We had a couple go-arounds before. Bitcoin popping to 35,000. Planets in the heavens swirling, Pluto returning. Does that mean an end to our nation? We got the wars kicking off. Energetic changes everywhere you're looking. And it also, with me looking at magnetic field changes across our entire solar system, seems that there's just an angrier populace out there. And is that because of electromagnetism and those changes that were forecast on this cycle to culminate in 2024? Anyway, we're going to try to scrunch all that together. And I know we're probably going to go off in a few different directions.
When I was in Somalia, I would say that, and that's an interesting, case study, because so I was there like right after Delta Force got out. If you ever seen Black Hawk Down, when you see the guys running at the end, that's where our base was right there. And it was a UN mission, and was there with some Turkish troops and some others, and some. But that was basically a society that had been functioning, a city, Mogadishu, that became very, very quickly a Stone Age. There was no running water, no electricity. And so it went from functional to completely not functional. And, I don't know what state it's in now, but that's where you hear about the famous, Somali pirates, because their, economy was so shot that, going out there in little fishing boats and holding, cargo ships for ransom was working. So you have to realize that was an act of desperation, and they
until
weren't
it
actually
didn't.
until it didn't work, until they, until they realized that, well, let's just say it stopped, put it that way. Um, but they were very, very ballsy going out there, 12 miles into international waters in little fishing boats with crappy little engines, and actually holding a cargo ship for ransom. They're pretty tough dudes, but they actually were not as bloodthirsty as they're oftentimes been out to be. They really weren't out to kill anybody. They just needed money. Some like tips from Somalia, having spent like 4 months in a society that just went dark. I know we've been going for a while, but I could wrap up a couple.
Yeah, wrap up.
One is I go through a quick little list of things that I saw when I was living in the midst of collapse. One is to and from water. If you've got running water, that's great. Here's one. If you got a well, you're doing incredible. If you don't have a well and water's not running, it's great to have a big stock up of water if you possibly can. Some 55-gallon drums, bunch of if you drink soda, fill that up with even tap water, put it in the garage. Having a buffer zone is really great, because where the water is, we had to distribute water there. And that road that people take, that path they're going to take to and from daily to get water, the path that everyone is taking is certain death.
Our national debt is a real world problem. Our government spends more in interest payments than it does funding the Pentagon. Biden wants to raise taxes on businesses and the wealthy. We've gone from $6 trillion in debt to $34 trillion in 20 years. There's a direct correlation to the national debt and the price of gold. In 2010, our debt, $13 trillion, gold $1,000 an ounce. 2020, the debt was $23 trillion and gold was $1,500 an ounce. 2023, $33 trillion U.S. debt, and now $2,000 an ounce for gold. Call the proud Americans, the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Mention the Adapt 2030 channel. You're going to get some great in-class service. Also, Patriot Gold Group has a no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver. No fee for life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Give them a call, 888-546-7020. And also now for the seventh year in a row, Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs top rated IRA gold dealer. 888-546-7020. And now on with the video.
So basically, you gotta be careful. So
Describe that, where people getting hijacked for the water once they got a
yeah,
few miles away from the distribution point.
yeah, because basically there was food being distributed, but most importantly, there was water being distributed. And whether we were giving it out, we had some because we were able to make wells and get water. We could pump it. We could get people water, but you have to create a secure environment to give them water. They have to have containers, and they're walking from the city in and out. And that path, you have to realize there's some people, I don't know, some say 1 in 5 people in our society are psychopaths. Well, there'll be people who are just going to wait and take that water from people, and also that path can be well known. Like here in Scottsdale, we have these big irrigation ditches. There's water. That's going to be a dangerous place to go. So if you have to go and get water, wherever you have to go that everybody goes is very, very dangerous because, like I say, there's some people who will just shoot you and take your water. A little tip here, gangs versus militia. So one of the things is that we saw there is if you live somewhere rural, if you live somewhere that's nice, never be too sure what's going to happen because, in many cases, one of the things we see is that you'll have a nice area, but then they defund the police and then the cops start leaving that area and going to where they're needed more. It's kind of a political thing. Oh, we'll take the cops from the nice areas and put them in the crappy areas, because the crappy areas need them. Well, guess what? Then the nice areas become crappy areas because hoodlums know they can steal catalytic converters, they can do home invasions, they can do all kinds of wonderful things. So the thing is, wherever you may be, if you're in that kind of overnight Stone Age situation, there's going to be you may not think you have them in your area. If you know you do, you do. But even if you don't believe that you have them in your area, they will show up. There's going to be marauding gangs killing people and just making home invasion a sport. And they're going to last for a little while. And then the militia will form, the people who want to keep society running, keep it working, have some kind of security. And so there will be a clash between the gangs, the bad people who have some organization already. It's going to be their dreams all come true. They're going to do a lot of damage. They will all be ruthlessly killed. And then the community will have to, by a militia, protect itself because you couldn't even have a market in Somalia after shit hit the fan without them coming through and just killing everybody and taking things. It's a sport for psychopaths. So just realize that's going to happen. So however you feel that.
How did countryside folk fare? Like the farms or further out of the city, outside the suburbs, out into what we consider like farming country, for example. Like what happened out that way?
Where most of them would get caught is going to and from. So the bad guys really were not interested in going and farming, but they knew the route that the farmers were taking to get to the market.
The
And
market in the
so
city.
the market in the city. So getting your stuff to the market could be very hazardous, you know. And so and also they once again are even going to have a market. And this is the thing. There's going to be a big brawl when that happens because society desires to keep order and will, but it's going to have to take care of basically I just call it the gangs. We call them bandits there, but there are gangs here in our country, and there's people who would like to be in them, and there will be small and large marauding gangs of people that are terrible. Society will clean them out, but it's going to be rough for a little while. Um, Markets are dangerous. Be careful. Going to the market's dangerous. Going and getting water is dangerous. Um, Something that you mentioned, we started to see crazy vehicles taking the differential out of a car that had been blown up or wasn't running and putting like a little platform on it and having it pulled by a donkey. You see lots of improvised vehicles will show up. That's a big one. Another one that we noticed there was solar panels are an invitation. Oh, and it's another one before I mention that, along with crazy vehicles that people start to make there. Um, if you have, bikes become incredibly important. Electric bikes are wonderful if you can charge them. Nice thing about it, you can pedal them if they run out of charge. If you got some bikes, even if they're just like $80 bikes, $90 bikes from Walmart, if their tires are good, they're a godsend because you can go somewhere and you can get things, and that's really great. But you won't be able to do that for a little while. But if you got them, they're
Somebody will
priceless.
target your bike for theft.
Yeah, they'll just take it. So, like I say, unfortunately, you're going to have to kind of hang tight or be part of the militia that's clearing out, taking care of business, but you're going to be stuck for a couple weeks.
Oh, is that
Um,
all the longer you're talking about is just a week to a month period here after chaos starts? I grid down week one and week two, and then you start to get the marauders in there after like week four. Everybody's kind of batten down the hatches in something. Is that the timeline, or am I off on that?
no, I would say about 3 months,
Three
all
months.
3 months, and I would say within 3 months, things were functional again, functional. People could go to and from the market. The farmers, like you were mentioning, they can get to and from without being harassed. People could get water. People could get food. Um, and a market is really an essential thing. People need stuff. And as the markets began to reform and happen, there was security there, and it was the people, the militia, I would call it, that was guarding the markets.
And the
So,
locals.
yeah, so basically about 3 months, and everything was normal again. So that was there. It's a pretty good sized city. Um, Another one is solar panels are an invitation for company. So if you have solar panels, um, just realize that means you have power, and people are going to want to come charge their cell phone. So if you have solar panels, you might end up having to throw some extension cords with surge protectors out front because people are going to want to charge things. And you've got the solar panels, they know you got the power, they're going to come and get it if you won't give it to them. So have some surge protectors, have some extension cords, throw them out front because it will save you a lot of trouble. Um, oh,
Or somebody
also,
wouldn't try to steal the extension cord and rip it down off the roof or something.
they probably will. They probably will. But after a couple of months, you get rid of that type. Because realize one thing I was going to mention is scores get settled when there is no law, and then eventually things begin to work functionally again. Um, you have to realize no one is going to be coming and figuring out who shot somebody. So basically, uh, people do get, as they say, in an armed society, people are polite. Well, in that society, if you're not armed, you're going to be in trouble. And in general, people start to just be good people, even the ones who aren't naturally. Another one is the aid workers, the UN workers that we saw there in Somalia. And also, we were aid workers. Also, we were helping people. Um, the aid workers are a target. So it's one of the things you have to think about is that the aid workers, people that are trying to help you, get tired of being harassed. So just realize that uh, they've got what you need. They have what a lot of people need. Not everybody is civil, and the aid workers will probably get incredibly bitter and sick of you. You know, so just try to be civil and just realize that they're targets. They're tired of it. Um, but many of them are very, very dedicated. Just realize that they are targets, and so are you when you're going and getting stuff. Um, in the current conflict, where they're leveling that city, that open air prison, I think it's over 50 UN aid workers have been killed. So uh, they're in it, and just try to be nice to them. Um, Daily route, anything predictable will probably get you killed, so be careful. Don't go to the market the same way every day because somebody will be waiting for you. It's good the best you possibly can for the first couple weeks. Stay low. That's when it's the most dangerous. Um,
So if you could stay
Also,
low and hunker down for a month, then you would miss
yes,
most of the chaos, unless they come out Well, they wouldn't come out to the farms. It's too far for them to travel. So they're just waiting for like easy prey, like a spider, to go on into the cities or somewhere like that.
They love roads. They love roads. They love being on, just around the corner, so yeah, if you're out a little ways, you can, defend yourself probably. And if you're, in a city and it's not, I wouldn't want to be in the middle of LA or something like that. I'm in a bit of a city here, but it's dispersed enough that we can take care of ourselves. So yeah, if you can stay underground for a little while and just defend your home, you're going to be good. Give it a month, give it a week, and you're going to be good to go. Batteries, solar chargers, of course, so you can hear what's going on. There may or may not be internet. You never know. Um, you know, Radio is old school. It's very, very helpful. Be able to charge your cell phone because there probably still will be, hopefully, signal from the towers, and you can see what's going on in the world. Solar panels for charging phones are great. And other than that, here's a big one: have maps, know your way around. What happens when the GPS stops working? Um, as simple as that. There could be some kind of an event where the GPS suddenly doesn't work. And if you're, challenged like I am and never know where you are, it's a good idea to have a map and a compass, you know, because what if the GPS stops working? So it's not a bad idea to know your neighborhood, to know your way around your city without a map, and to have a map just in case, and to have a compass just in case everything goes wrong. Because that was one thing I noticed in Somalia. It's kind of pre-GPS, but people didn't know where they were or how to get there. They figured it out, but in general, it's something that we're not used to anymore. If you want to go somewhere, you look on your phone. Okay, where is that? Look on Waze, and okay, it's this far, different routes. Okay, I'll just go. You put it on your little thing, or you have the GPS in your car, and you just go. You don't know where you are half the time. You just go, and then you come back. And so it would not hurt to know your bearings, know where you are, know the big roads, know where they're going, and have a map, have a compass, and just be able to find your way back. And along with that, of course, always, even if they're cheap from Walmart or a thrift store, even better, they're a bit better. Have some boots in your car, have a bug out bag, have water, be ready to get home at some point if you have to. It's just something to think about. You might not be able to use your car for various reasons. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
get home
my
bag. That's a good point right there. Not a
have
bug
it in
out
your
bag, but
car.
literally a get home bag where there's enough in there, whatever kind of weather, heat, cold, rain, snow, whatever, it can get you home 20 miles. You can hoof it 20 miles and your adrenaline's going to be pumping anyway. So you're not going to really get as tired as you think. And you could book it home in 20 miles, but you can need the right gear and some water and some snacks and that sort of thing.
And then yeah, and then you're set, And also with your compass and your map, it's great because you may have to take a route that you don't usually take, and you'll be able to find your way. And one last little thing is um, first aid to whatever extent you desire to. It's good to have, like, I love these first aid kits by Dark Angel. I think they call it Dark Angel Medical. And these guys are great because they actually got my tourniquet, got my everything I need. They actually vacuum pack it. So I have a huge amount of bandages in here, but they're very, very small because they've been vacuumed. And so, to whatever extent a person desires, one of the best things you can do is go do a EMT course. It's not that much money. If you don't ever care about being in an ambulance, that's fine. You don't care if you pass the tests, but it's super hands-on. That the cops usually teach it, the fire department, other EMTs. It's the most hand-on, real first aid, secondary aid training you're ever going to get. And you can do it, in the evenings or whenever, and it's fun. It's fun doing tourniquets on each other and things like that, like know how to use your map and your compass. It doesn't hurt. It's great to have some good books on first aid along with whatever training you've got. And other than that, last little tip from Somalia is this: like, you know, uh, some people are not very second amendmentee, and I understand that. If you are, well, then you are. That's great. Accordingly, do what you see as fit. But you never know what situation you're going to get into and how quickly it's going to happen. If you are physically able um, do some kind of a martial art. BJJ is really hot these days. I personally like judo a little better. Boxing is great, but I hate getting hit in the head. There's Krav Maga, there's karate, whatever you might like to do. Also, right now, and it's kind of up and coming, there's places like kickbox, they call it, and actually just combative boxing and kicking. But you even do like boxing drills and kicking drills together, and you kick the bag a lot, but there's no actual sparring. You're not actually like punching each other in the head. You're just doing drills. There's a lot of like non-impact, as in not getting punched in the head, fun MMA kickbox training that you can do. Um, because if you can do anything, if you can work a combo, if you can like dodge that that punch, do a liver shot, kick him in the groin, elbow him in the head, then knee the crap out of him, if you know that you can do that, and you practice with your friends, when you have to get home that day and things are starting to get sketchy, or you went out, maybe you couldn't quite stay in that first month, you had to go out and get something, you had to go get grandma insulin, you know, I tell you what, um, you're gonna be a lot better off because great, your Second Amendment, that's great. Believe me, I'm all about it. Boom. I prefer my criminals dead personally, but at the same time, you don't know if you're going to have that ability. You've always got these. You're always ready with these guys. And sometimes you're going to get grabbed and attacked before you can even get to a gun if you even have one. So if you just do it for fun, training is fun, kickboxing is fun. There's something that's going to be right for you. And if you know it and you train it and you do it, if you're physically capable, you're going to be in such a better position. And you're going to, it's going to change the way you see things. When somebody starts to be aggressive, someone you think might be a problem, if you're thinking like, okay, I'm going to work it like this, I'm going to be like, yeah, you start getting psycho, you start getting in like, crazy Spartan mode. They're probably just going to realize you're not a soft target and leave you alone. So there you go. There's some of Craig's survival tips from the war torn crap hole.
Yeah, and what were some of the barterables too? Did anybody have silver that they were throwing around over there?
The bartables that I saw were yes, you do see gold and silver
Really?
there. Honestly, yeah, you do. You do see their currency. Their currency still existed, so it was used. People would you could I wish I could have gotten a couple and taken them home, but they had fine, uh, uh, Eastern European full auto AK-47s. You could buy one of those, but unfortunately, we'd get in a lot of trouble when we brought those back to the base, so we couldn't. But you could get them. You could get ammo. Ammo is a huge barterable. The popular caliber is 22, 9 millimeter, 223, 5.56, 308. Ammo is a big, big deal. That was a big barterable. Water, drinkable water was a big one. Um, and of course, food. Food is a big one. And one of the things that we saw there as far as barter was um, they were getting food. There were food at the markets, but especially food that was storable. So MREs that we had were a big deal. You could they were getting them. I think the Nigerians were there and they were giving them MREs. We did to some extent. So that was like gold. Honestly, I think the most valuable thing was drinkable water because there was a sea there, but you can't drink that. Um, and so potable water that could be drunk was the biggest deal, especially containers you can carry it in were a big deal. And MREs, meals ready to eat by American ones and the other militaries that were there, those were gold, honestly. Uh, true, truly. And unfortunately, they had run out of gas. One of the things that would have been quite a barter item would have been car parts like tires and things like that. But unfortunately, there was no gas, so all the vehicles they had ceased to running for it, and that wasn't happening. Also, another big barterable was if you had the ability to do first aid, secondary aid, if you can actually help people that are injured, because one of the very, very difficult things to deal with in that kind of a situation is you will have the walking wounded, people that are injured, sometimes catastrophically. And there's just nothing anyone can do for them. And it's a very sad situation. And so if you have that ability, which is why I really am big on like the first aid and having the gear with you, having in your car a big box, a big bag that's red and has the big cross on it. So if something happens, you can say, go to my car. It's in the back seat. Somebody can find it easy. Um, if I think one of the most rewarding things you can possibly do is to be able to I would say save somebody or help somebody. It might just be a band-aid, or it might be a lot more. But really potable water, um, food that is mobile. For us, it was meals ready to eat, MREs, because they lasted in any condition. Canned food, of course, too. Tuna fish was a big deal in cans. And I don't even know how you really can quantify it, but one of the most valuable things were doctors. If you can treat wounds, if you can do stitches, if you can assess somebody, because there will be injuries, and it's absolutely devastating to not be able to do anything about it. It causes terrible panic within the community, and if you can't do anything, it's the most helpless feeling you'll ever have. So I would say that first aid, learn it, do it to whatever extent. If it's slight, that's slight. But I would say that learning first aid and how to take care of injured people, because realize that there may not be an ambulance. It might be what you can do, and that's it. Or the ambulance might be days, you know, or it might be hours. So I would say there is no way to calculate the value of first aid training and secondary, especially trauma, being able to treat compound fractures and things like that.
Ooh.
If they're going to happen, they're going to happen, and if you can do something about it, um, I will tell you what, um, if you want your community to keep you alive, be able to keep them alive, and you'll be the most valuable person in that community.
Because
Yeah.
even when we were talking a couple of years ago and we first started talking about these things, because you could see it, it was probably just around the COVID time when it started. You could see the world was starting to slowly fall off the cliff, and it was kind of hanging in midair like the Roadrunner was, and we are just waiting for gravity to take hold and start. I think gravity's holding, and we're starting to fall down the cliff in slow motion. But you could
Mhm.
definitely see that there was something in that motion that we were coming into this point where some of what we're talking about today we're gonna see it in real time. How
We
much longer
definitely
before
are.
this war kicks into higher gear? But at some point, what happens with the Straits of Hormuz when our oil gets cut off? If something gets happened and the Egyptians get angry and say, no, Suez is shut,
Hmm.
like the traumatic effect that would have on a global economy, it would almost be instant. And I've heard it would take about 20 hours before you would lose access to most of your money if something of this nature were to occur. Also, the detonation of some sort of nuclear weapon over wherever doesn't have to be in along the Mediterranean. It could be anywhere. It could be, in Iran. It could be in Turkey. It could be anywhere. But again, that same maxity max would be 20 hours before the entire global system locks up and all the derivatives come unspun, and
Mm.
you won't have access to your bank or anything. So one thing I was told, and I've learned over the year since the COVID time, was, when you go into a store and you buy something with a debit card or a credit card, ask you, do you want cash back? So that's another way you can get money out.
Hmm.
Even if you're ATM and you've run through and you've gotten your max out for the day, well, each time you make a purchase, just click yes, I want to get $100 out. So they'll give you
Yeah.
cash over the counter there, and you can do that several times and just run it until the cards don't work any longer. But of some significant event of stoppage of oil, or there's actually a detonation somewhere, you're probably, I would say, closer to probably 8 hours instead of the maximum 20. But you're going to have to be lickety split, and your heart's going to be pumping as you try to go fill up your gas cans and get the last food and keep running your cards until they just stop working. Because at some point I really got this bad gut stinking feeling here that we're getting quite close to food disruption on the planet, which the governments don't want the citizenry to know because they would be angry that the governments didn't prepare them. So it needs to be an all one excuse why supply chains got locked up, why harvest didn't come in correctly, why things didn't get planted, why the food stopped in the fashion that it's being delivered, and yields are significantly, gargantuanly down. Well, this war would explain all of that versus natural cyclicity and changes that were inbound from, how our Goldilocks period of agricultural production in the last 200 years. The agricultural optimum has ceased. We're
Mm.
outside that zone now. It's very noticeable that the agricultural optimum no longer exists in our world. Now, we were so privy to be in that for 200 years or so, but now we're outside it. And I think that's part of the reason that all these excuses have been given to us for 20 or 30 years, knowing we were coming to the cutoff point of reliable crop production. So, just with all that in your head, I really feel something bigger this way comes. I just can't see the genie going back in the bottle on this one. I just can't see it. I
Well,
just can't.
as I was talking to Unradiant Creators interviewed Joseph Farrell the other week, and quite the prolific writer. I think he's got like 40 plus books. He's quite an interesting character. And we were talking about that feeling that many of us had since we were kids that something was coming, or maybe it came later, or maybe it's intensified one way or the other. Many of us, most people listening, if not all listening, I'd imagine, have felt something is coming. Whether it's all your life or the last decade, your last 5 years, you've felt it. Well, it's here. It's happened. We're in it, you know and it's one of the things we really have to I think, getting my mind around, is that time, that event that I felt like was coming. It's here. I think we're actually in it, and we're all in a bit of shock right now, you know um because yeah, we are in WW3. It's here. It's cold in a way, depending on where you are in the world. Some places it's hot, some places it's cold, but yeah, things could change very quickly. And can they put that genie back in the bottle?